welcome to the Audacious Life Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Roberts. Today I have with me Donna Sager-Cowan. And Dot, is it Cowan or Cohen? Cowan. Mm-hmm. See, I knew I was going to do that. She is here to talk about her story, but also her book. You can see it in the background there with The Courage of a Mouse, and it's part of her superhero school series. And it's very creative, and I'm excited to talk to her about that, about her own story as a writer and some of the things that kind of brought her just to kind of share her stories, as well as sharing her own, or weaving in her own personal perspective on life with some of the things that she has been through as the amazing lady that she is. So welcome, Donna.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning, Stephanie. It's like, I am excited about this book. I'm excited about it being out there in the world, and I'm excited that I'm getting actually some great reviews from fans all around the world, and they are loving this book, which is all I ever wanted.
Yay! What are some of the things that they're saying? I would love to hear.
Well, most people are telling me that, number one, that they don't think it's particularly a children's book. It's an everyone book, that they think that there's something in there for everyone, and that they actually like the animal characters, and that they are teaching each other how to get along in their world and with their own problem solving issues, and how they work together and try to overcome a lot of things that are frowned upon, the cat and the mouse, being friends when they typically are enemies, dealing with the other animals and their problems, and trying to all get along and work together. So these are great life lessons for everyone. And so they're very much enjoying it. And I did try to keep it as a light story, keep it moving as an action adventure. And I think that's one of the greatest things, is I do hear a lot of people say I couldn't put it down, which is amazing to me.
That is awesome. Wow. Well, I think that it is so timely based on what you said, because never before in my lifetime have I experienced, just such, chaos, disparity between people, the infighting, and just even with kids, I just see there's so much pressure to be either in or out. And it's the message is beautiful. This whole idea of like, it doesn't matter that we're supposed to be enemies or we're supposed to be friends or whatever. Like, can't we just all get along, literally, and trying to figure out a way to make ourselves move forward where everybody wins, kind of. And that's a message we all need to hear.
I love that part of the story. That's my favorite part of explaining about this story is, even though they are so different and they come from such different worlds, we have Kat coming from the real world, and she's an abandoned cat. She has trust issues. She has security issues and homelessness issues. Mm-hmm. And then we find Simon, who's kind of led a pretty sheltered life in Mouseville, where, he's kind of large and in charge and able to, make these grand plans and things like that. But when he gets out into the real world, he finds out that maybe his plans are a little bit selfish, and he hasn't really considered anyone else. Whereas, Kat makes no plans because she doesn't believe she deserves anything. And so through the story, just these two characters are able to kind of help each other see what they're missing, and to kind of, bring them to their best selves, which is really, I think, what we can take as the greatest lesson. Is it's not that what you are missing that is the issue, it's what you have to offer, because that may be the vital piece that somebody else needs. And it's like, I had a quote given to me about 2 years ago, and I love this quote. It says, "What you find ordinary, other people find extraordinary." Wow. So don't discount what seems ordinary to you, because it may be that one extraordinary thing that somebody else needs in their life.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. Again, that's just this culture of comparison and not being good enough and everything being kind of airbrushed and perfect and whatever, and these vanity numbers with social media and things like that. I think that there is just such a huge culture around perfectionism, and it really just invalidates all of us on some level, when it's like, that's just such a, it's just such a fake way to measure somebody. It's such a false measurement of anything, and some of it is false to begin with anyway. So I love that that's more about heart and integrity and depth and all these characteristics that aren't necessarily revered at this point in history. So
well, yeah, and it's like,
bravo.
here's here's the problem with being perfect. It's like you never learn anything from being perfect. We
Yeah.
only learn from mistakes. It's like you only learn from the lessons and the missteps and things. Those are what teach you. So if you're constantly being perfect, which quite frankly is a boring life, because if we're perfect, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy. It's like, I don't understand why we all feel we need to be perfect, because quite frankly, I'm more drawn to people that overcome their situations, or that gain something through struggle, than I am to somebody that was just handed this wonderful life. And it's this image of the icons that we look up to, that when we're looking at these people that are airbrushed in the magazines or on movies and stuff like that, and these people that are placed in these perfect situations, which they're fantasy. No one can compete with that, and it's like, I wouldn't want to try. It's like, I would rather be a real person and be loved for who I am by the small amount of people who love me, than to have thousands of throngs and then have to try and live up to that expectation. Yeah. It's like, that would be exhausting.
Exactly. Oh, and I think it is. That's why a lot of not so great things happen to people in those circumstances. So
Right.
yeah, I like that. And one of my favorite things, I said this to somebody the other day, who's just going through hell right now. It's like, you think of the diamond, it's that pressure, right? The coal under pressure creates that diamond. And I don't even know if that's the right analogy, but that's the way that I see it, right? Like I just try to remember that. It's like you come out, more beautiful for having gone through some of the hardest stuff in your life, because you have such a different perspective, appreciation. I mean, there's so many things that it can help you with. So
well, it gives you a sense of empathy. It's like, I was fortunate enough, just a few weeks ago, to be in the LA area visiting with some families through the Midnight Mission and their Home Light program, which they are trying to find housing and get these people that are homeless families back on their feet and going again, which is a wonderful program. And the thing that struck me the most was how appreciative these children were of absolutely everything, because when everything is taken away from you and you have no choices, it's like you learn to see the world in a different perspective. It's like, unfortunately, we do live in a fast-paced culture. It's like, give me now. It's like, I want. It's like mine. And it's very disturbing, because it doesn't teach really any kind of empathy or gratitude or any kind of kind feelings towards other people, because we're so pulled into ourselves that we literally can't see beyond the end of our nose. And we don't consider anything beyond the end of our nose, because that's not my problem. And it's very sad. And it's like, we are teaching our children this. It's like, the biggest thing that I tell parents is, the number one rule for anything in your life that you want to teach your children, be the example. Yeah. If you want them to be kind, be a kind person. If you want them to be respectful, be a respectful person. If you want them to, read in front of them. It's pretty much that simple. It's like, you are their focal point. You are the person that they are trying to emulate. It's just a funny saying, but it's true. Monkey see, monkey do. What are you letting the monkey see you do?
Such a great point. Yes, exactly. And so with things related to empathy, whatever, a lot of people listening to this podcast, in particular, The Audacious Life, are going through, possible divorce. Maybe they went through divorce, separation, that kind of thing. And so your life is turned upside down. You maybe were in one socioeconomic status, you end up in another. And I think there's a lot of guilt with parents who get out of those situations and now they're thrown into something where they have less. There's more struggle and they worry about their children. And I think that I'm absolutely, this has happened to me many times, but I feel like ultimately my kids are seeing another way of life that they never would have been exposed to. And it does give them more perspective and empathy towards others. And it's, we've had struggling days, we've had wonderful days, but yeah, and I think that's a great point about the monkey see, monkey do, and just everything's relative. So if you think that you're, struggling, then go to the homeless shelter or the food pantry or whatever and really see that difference. And I've done that with my kids. I would like to do more of that, but
yeah, and it's like, but there's some things in there too I want to tell you is it's like, you can't compare your struggle. And a lot of times, these struggles are a big point for your children because they are watching to see how you are solving these problems, how you are handling that pressure, how you are trying to juggle and make a life. So don't discount that they are paying attention and they are learning as you go through this. And you can't compare your struggle with anyone else's. This is your struggle. Only you have walked the path that you've walked. Give yourself credit for the fact that you get up every day and take another step and that you try. It's like, there is nothing greater in the world than trying. It's like, give yourself the credit for that, because ultimately at the end of the day, whether we did it well or not doesn't matter. What matters is that we tried. We tried to improve our life. We tried to make life better. We tried to solve the problems. We tried to improve the lot of our life and the people around us. So give yourself some credit for that.
I like that. Thank you. Yes. Amen. I will hang on to that. I'm sure everybody listening will. Thank you. So when you were writing this book, Donna, what was it that you hoped people would, children, adults, whomever reading this, would come away with this book? Like what was the main thing that you were hoping they would walk away with?
Well, I wanted them to come away with the idea that everybody has within them the power to be their own superhero. They have.
Oops. Can you still hear me, Donna? I can see you. Not sure if there's a bandwidth issue. Can you still hear me, Donna? Okay.
That's okay.
Oh, you were frozen for a minute. It's okay. Keep going. Oh, yeah. Are you back? Okay. So
I believe I'm back. We may have to edit this part, but
we can edit. No, that's no problem. We can edit it. That's okay. So you were saying
have everything they need within them to be their own superhero. They have all the tools, they have all of the knowledge, they have all the experience to this point to go out and be amazing and great in their life. They just need to sharpen those tools. They need to figure out how to use them to their greatest advantage. You don't really need somebody to teach you how to do this. And this is where I get into the conversation about the difference between bravery and courage. Bravery is a great thing, and I have no beef with bravery. It's just something entirely different than courage. Bravery is basically going out and facing your fears. It's like if you're afraid of getting on a roller coaster and you get on a roller coaster, you're being brave. Courage is something entirely different because it is discounting your fears. Courage is not the absence of fear. it is that something else or someone else is more important than your fear. So it's where you're basically saying, you know, I may be afraid of fire, but you know what? There's a child inside this burning building. I'm going to go run in there and get them, because it's more important that that child lives than it is for me to be afraid of fire. You know, that's an extreme case, but you know,
Right.
there are a million ways to be courageous. You know, just, you know, for people who struggle with health issues, just getting up in the morning and getting out of bed and, you know, deciding that they're going to do something that day is like absolute hero to me. You know, these single mothers that, you know, they, you know, give up their entire life and all their time to provide a home and, you know, everything that their children need, almost to their own detriment, are heroes to me. And so, you know, we need to recognize those courageous acts. We need to celebrate those courageous acts. And I think it's, you know, it's amazing that we're having this conversation 2 days after Mother's Day. And it's like, we need to celebrate Mother's Day. I think Mother's Day needs to be a big national holiday that we celebrate as largely as we do Christmas and Easter and all of these other wonderful holidays we have out there, because let's face it, without mothers, none of us would be here.
Right. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah. And dads are like, but what about us?
Well, you know, we could talk about dads too. Dads have a very important role.
Right.
And it's like, you know, sometimes they are, you know, the single parent that is sacrificing and going out there and, you know, and sometimes they are the second parent or, you know, the combined parenting that is going out there and working really, really hard. I don't discount the men in any way in their parenting. What I'm saying is we need to celebrate these people because they are doing a difficult job in a difficult time when there's so many distractions. You know, it's like, you know, unfortunately, you know, the education systems are not working. They're failing. You know, our children are not learning how to spell. They're not learning math well. Their reading levels are at an all-time low. And, you know, so a lot of this is being put on the parent. And so we need to remember that. It's like, and they're doing it with less and less time. It's like, you know, in this day and age, it's like we work probably 20 to 25% more than our parents ever did.
It's true. Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's like, so we have less time with more things that we're responsible for. So that in and of itself is courage, just taking that step to do it.
That's a great point. And kids aren't even alone anymore. They're with us so much, right? Because they're not allowed to play alone anymore.
Right. And
that's a whole other thing. Our moms used to be like, come back at 5 o'clock or no.
Well, there is that, but you know, it's like, I always look at that, you know, it's anytime that you have a situation like that where, you know, things change and it's okay. But, you know, it's like, take that moment and try and turn it upside down and not think of it as, you know, this hurdle that I have to go through, but maybe as something that I can use to my advantage. It's blessing, like, you know, it's like right now, whatever you're going through right now might be the bridge that you have to build to get to whatever's coming next.
Right.
So, you know, you can't always discount whatever the struggle is that you're going through right now or whatever you're having to deal with right now, because it may be exactly what you need to know to get through the next problem.
Totally agree with that. Great perspective. And speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, in terms of this book, I know that all the writers I know have drawn from real life anything that they've written for the most part. So before we started recording, I asked you if this was the first book you've written, and it's the first book you've had published.
Right.
But tell me more about your writing and where this idea came from, if you want to share a little bit of your own story.
Absolutely. I started this journey about 45 years ago, writing. It's like I was a very shy, introverted child. I was the youngest child in a large family. It's like, it was kind of overlooked a little bit. And so I had started reading and writing very young, basically to create somebody to play with and talk to.
Yeah.
And so, but I've written all of these years and I just never thought it was good enough. It's like, I never thought anybody wanted to read it. It's like, so I'd write these stories, finish these books, and then stick them in a drawer. It's like, I never tried to publish. This particular story came to me. I was, telling my grandchildren bedtime stories at night. And, it's like, sometimes I would read them stories that were already written, but they actually seemed to prefer when I would tell them stories about my life growing up or when I would make up stories. This one came about because my youngest granddaughter was asking me about what I thought my cat did at night, because she would leave as soon as the sun would go down, and then she'd come back the next morning just absolutely exhausted, and we couldn't figure out what it was she was doing.
Right.
So a few weeks later, I came up with this story about her being a superhero and that she was going out and saving all of her animal friends at night. And they loved this story. It's like this was on their favorite list for many, many months. And then they actually wanted me to write it down so that they could tell their friends, and so they could have it, when they were home. And that was cool. So we started on it, and then we kind of decided that, maybe we needed to start at the beginning of how she became a superhero. And so the superhero school was born and started this series, which they absolutely love the story. They're happy with it. They can't wait until we get to the point to where, she actually is a superhero, but that's a few books down the road. Right. But, it's inspiring, but, it's like, I struggled with life. It's like, I had, self-esteem issues. I had body dysmorphia. I had image, issues because of things that I went through. It's like, I was divorced several times. My high school sweetheart, who was my first husband, basically divorced me because I couldn't have children. Wow. Which was pretty devastating. And, so, the subsequent marriages, that after that, it's like, I married an abusive man just because I didn't think I deserved anything better. And I stayed with him until, he almost, did the unthinkable. And, I was able to get away, but I had to move to another state. And then I ended up marrying an older man. And because I thought he was safe, he already had grown children. He didn't want any more children. But then it created a new situation where his daughter was struggling trying to raise the granddaughter. And so she moved in with us. And then it was kind of like, okay, well, I have other people that can watch her. So she was young. And so she would go and be gone for longer and longer periods of time and just leave her with us, my new granddaughter with us. And so eventually she just never came back. And so I took on raising her from the age of 5 on. And then when she was 14, I ended up ending the marriage with her grandfather and adopted her and became her mother, which was a strange transition for us. Yeah. But that's okay. We got through it. But, it's like, now I have a wonderful husband, but, had I not gone through all of those things, I don't know that I would have known what it was that I needed in a partner for my life. So I'm kind of not glad that I went through it, but I am happy that I did learn something from it and I was able to get to this point, because now I have, two adopted daughters. I have 6 wonderful grandchildren. Wow. And a husband that understands me and appreciates me and supports me, which is amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. You are like the poster child for there is life after a whole bunch of crap.
Well, and that's, that's kind of what I think is like, life is what you make it. It's what you choose, so if you keep choosing the bad stuff, if you keep choosing to focus on the bad stuff, then that's all you're going to see. If you keep trying to look for that diamond or that 4-leaf clover or the sunshine or silver lining or however you want to put it, then they're going to start shining through. Yeah. They're going to start showing up more often, and you're going to realize that most things are connected in life.
That's so beautiful. So you just glossed over it, but I think that your second husband was trying to kill you.
Yes.
Wow.
Multiple times.
So you got away from that. That sounds
Yeah.
like just scary as hell. You had no
Well,
children. Thankfully, you didn't have children in tow at that point, I guess, right?
right. Yes. And I mean, this is one of the times that I was very thankful for having a large
Right.
family, because, they were able to, stay with me and protect
Okay.
me so that I could, gather up my things, and I did. I ended up moving to an entirely different state. In fact, I moved halfway across the country
Wow.
just, to
Get
be
away.
away from him. And, because it seemed to me that at this point, it was just the sight of me enraged him, and it was an untenable situation. And it's like, yes, I could have prosecuted, and it's like, that's a whole nother story. But
Mhm.
at this point, I just really just wanted to get away and get on with my life.
Freedom. Yeah.
And I think that for me was more important than, later, later did make sure that, there were things on record, so that, if this ever came up again, it wasn't, like a big, huge surprise. But
Right.
I just couldn't go through all of that again. It was something that I had lived through. I had adjusted my life to, and sought counseling to get past. And it's just, it's just a part of my life that I know is there, and I'll always remember it. But it's not a place I choose to revisit on
Right.
very many occasions.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But
But it's so important, though, to know that you went through those two situations. Then you marry this third person who's older, and sounds like you're very much connected to him just by his offspring,
right.
but because they're part of who your core family.
Mm-hmm.
And then where did you have to be in your head? And I know we haven't talked even about, you mentioned people struggling with health, but you have significant health issues. Like, what did you do to kind of reframe your life as this newfound grandparent, parent?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
this was part of the issue when that marriage went upside down. Is I was diagnosed with a neuromuscular disease, which unfortunately, it's two sides of a good and bad coin. It's like it is completely survivable, but the problem is surviving is very tough.
Wow.
It's like my life is a series of choices. It's like, if I do this, I can't do that. It's basically managing. But yeah, it did change my life. It's like I was suddenly taken off work. I couldn't work any longer. And now I had, a granddaughter changing into a daughter that I was trying to support. And, I almost became homeless myself. It's like, I couldn't support myself, and I was sick. I was very fortunate that my family was able to step forward and help me. And, friends, and my current husband, came into the picture, and he was so willing to take this on, which kind of shocked me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
there is a God.
there is, and there are wonderful people out there.
There are wonderful people, yes.
And we've been together over 25 years, and
wow, that's awesome.
Been an amazing journey. I've had, just so many health issues, and so many surgeries, and life altering problems. At one point I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't even walk. And thankfully I've gotten better.
Yeah.
But, it is a matter of, making choices. And this is the life that I want. I want to be a children's author. I want to share, my joy and my inspiration with the world through kids. And so, the fact that I get to live that dream, that I get to chase that dream every day is the greatest gift for me. Especially, it's like, it seems like this is the reward that I get for all of those struggles. And I'm just so thrilled to have it.
What an awesome story. That is so amazing. Yeah. And I didn't realize that your current husband, you've been together that long. Wow. Incredible. So, yeah. So how did he walk into that picture?
Well, you know,
Impressive.
it's a little interesting story. I actually met him as I was meeting one of his roommates who happened to be a brother to a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And it was a little odd because I couldn't quite figure out, you know, when we met, it's like he was very, very quiet, really never said anything, but he kept staring at me. And I thought it was a little strange. I'm like, okay, what did I do to this person? And you know, so we actually began dating, and you know, I was just frustrated at that point. It's like I had been dating for a while after my previous divorce, and it just wasn't going well. It's like, you know, at what point do you tell somebody you're sick? You know, is that a second date conversation? Is that a fifth date conversation? So
no good time, right?
yeah, it becomes a difficult thing. So I just got to the point where I'm like, okay, you know what? It's the first date. It's probably not appropriate, but I'm laying my cards on the table.
Good for you.
And I did. And I almost to the point was so blunt that, you know, I just figured, you know, I'll never hear from this person again in my life. And he just looked at me and he's just like, well, it's a good thing I showed up because it sounds to me like you could use a good person in your life. And he goes, and I would like to be that person. I'm just like, oh,
wow. Oh, I'm a little choked up.
I know.
That's incredible.
It is. And, you know, it was an amazing thing for me. It's like, we just connected. We did well. He had never been married at this point, had never seriously dated. And it was just, he said there was something about me that just clicked for him and it clicked for me. And, you know, it's been great. I mean, you know, we always have our ups and downs, but anybody does. But, you know, he has been, you know, the strength in my life. You know, he has been so absolutely solid and just weathering every storm. And that's just, you know, that to me is amazing that he's willing to go on this crazy journey with me.
Totally get it. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Well, that's so beautiful. I'm so glad that you could share that with us.
Oh, thank you.
Actually. Awesome. So what is I know that you have a series here with this book. So what is the next one coming out?
Well, I actually, if we have time for it, I have a little sneak peek for you. So here is the cover that we're working on for book 2. It is With the Curiosity of a Cat. So Diane's doing a great job with the illustrations. So I have like a little 1.5 minute little preview from book 2.
Go ahead, go for it.
So here we go. Cat, come on, Simon growled. It's easy. Just 1 step forward and you're flying. Then all you have to do is count to 15 while you see the world like you've never seen it before. Pull that handle. Simon pointed to a plastic loop dangling from the front of her pack. And you're down. Easy peasy. It won't wait forever. When Cat stood frozen, Simon frowned and scratched his chin. Well, what if I go first? He waved his arm like they were talking about who would enter the building first, but there wasn't a building. It was just air. Or we could jump together. Simon tugged on his whiskers while Cat shuffled back away from the door. Simon walked closer to the door and turned to say something to Cat just as the plane banked left. Simon flew right out the door. Cat ran to the door and watched Simon tumble end over end toward the ground. When she looked down, the big red X was gone. Cat slowly counted to 15, holding her breath while she waited for Simon to disappear beneath the big parachute. It didn't happen. She was still counting to 25 and could see Simon rolling through the air, pulling and tugging on the handle. When it snapped loose from his pack without opening the chute, Cat gasped. Simon! She shrieked. She couldn't watch anymore. Without thinking, Cat stepped out into the sunshine and cold air to save Simon. Cat's life would be over without Simon. She needed him like oxygen. She couldn't live in this or any world without her best friend. Tucking her head, she pointed her body to intercept Simon. Cat flew faster and faster, almost knocking Simon further away. They grabbed for each other, their paws sliding just short each time they moved closer. The ground was rushing towards them faster and faster, but she couldn't pull her ripcord yet, not without Simon. One more try. When their paws slid past again, Simon and Kat hooked tails, weaving them together, inching themselves closer, close enough to lock buckles. Terror shining on both their faces, they grabbed the handle on Kat's parachute and yanked with all their combined might. The air stood still, the rushing wind silent. They were falling. They weren't falling anymore. They weren't floating either. They weren't going to make it.
Whoa, cliffhanger. Love it. What a great excerpt to read. Yeah.
Thank you.
And these illustrations are beautiful. I'm sure you have the book over there, but they are. So your illustrator is Diane Reed, and did you say something happened to her and you weren't sure if she was going to be able to finish originally?
Well, yeah, exactly. That was part of they're wonderful illustrations. Part of the struggle that I had, that it took me 2 years to write the first book. You know, I was working on it, had a few health issues myself.
Right.
And then I lost my mother, which was very devastating to me because she was one person in my life that always encouraged me to continue to write and to keep trying. Yeah. And so it was really hard for me when I lost her. And then a month later, my illustrator had a stroke and went into a coma for 77 days. Whoa. When she woke up, she couldn't do anything. She couldn't talk. She couldn't walk. She couldn't write or hold a pencil. And it's like, I was like, my heart almost stopped. And I was just like, no.
Yeah, you're like, okay, this book is sabotage, right?
So, you know, and she did eventually, as she was able to talk more, she did try to convince me to go find another illustrator. And I'm just like, you know, I really don't want to. She and I have such a great connection in her being able to interpret my words into pictures, which is a difficult relationship at best. And so I really didn't want to go through the whole process of trying to find somebody again that I have that connection with. And I just told her, I'm like, you know, I'm not willing yet to give up on you. So let's just wait and see what happens. It's like, I don't need these illustrations today. I go, you have a few months. And she did work really, really hard. And it's like, she woke up from the coma in middle of May of last year. Okay. And she had the illustrations done for me by the middle of September.
Wow.
It's like 5 months.
But she couldn't hold a pencil when she first came.
No, she couldn't hold a pencil. It was amazing. And it's like, you know, I spoke to her daughter, and her daughter was like, I was so amazed because she would be going through all the different speech therapy and physical therapy and trying to work, and she would get frustrated and she would want to quit. And it's like, we'd always, she goes, I could count on this happening every single time. We get all the way to the car and she's like, no, we have to go back. Donna's waiting on me. She needs me for this book. That's which awesome. I was like so thankful that I could be that little bit of spark or inspiration for her to keep struggling, to keep trying. And it's like, I think that in itself is the greatest achievement that you can be for anybody, is to be that inspiration or that spark for them.
Absolutely. What a huge, that's a huge nod in her direction. I have faith in you. I'm sticking by you. You're going to get through this. And she probably really needed that. That's a huge,
I think so. But, you know, I've been on the other side where I just needed somebody to believe in me. Totally. As I said, I had never considered publishing, and I was working on this story for my grandchildren, you know, and even at that point, I really hadn't planned on publishing it. I was just writing it for them. And I ran across this man, Carrie Oberbrunner, and he convinced me, you know, that I was a good writer and that people would want to hear my story, and, you know, gave me a vehicle to publish my book. And I was just like astounded. And any time that I've faltered and felt like I couldn't go on, it's like he and, you know, the people around him have been just absolute, you know, champions to run up and say, no, you can do this. You have what it takes. You just need to believe in yourself. And it's one of the things that he said is, he goes, I'll believe in you until you can believe for yourself. And
Wow.
that has stuck with me always. And it is such a big thing that sometimes we do need people to believe in us a little bit more than we believe in ourselves sometimes.
Yes, for sure. And it is not always easy to find that. So
No,
that's
no.
beautiful. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
more we can do that for other people too and keep that in mind. Because it's funny, I think, especially like you said at the beginning, we're in this day and age where it's like, no, get it done, get it done, get it done. And, everybody goes through different bumps and hurdles in their lives. And they realize, I think you can realize, this has happened to me too, where it's like, oh, I know my situation might be holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
And that person has an option. They can
Sure.
move on, or they could say, no, 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 you're the one, I want to work with you. And that feels amazing. So what you did,
Mm-hmm.
again, just having that faith
Mm-hmm.
and trusting and being patient, I'm sure that took a lot of patience. And so was she able to create images that looked like the previous ones, or was it a completely different take on the characters?
Actually, they're pretty close, and and this was part of it too. Is she was a little frustrated, because they weren't of the quality that she was used to, and it's and again, it's like I told her, I'm like, this is probably not the best written book of my life, but it's
Yeah.
good. It's good for
Yeah.
right now. And it's like,
Right.
and it gives me something to work towards. It's like, if I go out there and throw down my best book ever in the beginning, it's like, again, this is perfectionism. It's like, I have to live up to that.
Right.
Whereas I want to fall a little bit short.
Yeah.
It's like, because
Stretch the next time.
I want each book to get better and better
Yes.
and better. And it's like, and the same thing with the illustrations. It's like, they're great for now. They're great considering everything that you and I went through to get this book out into the market. So, we'll have better illustrations for book 2 and even better ones for book 3. And it's like,
Right.
and the characters will evolve and become more refined. It's like, so we're good for now.
Wow.
She's just like, I'm so glad that you give me permission to just be not as good as, I'm like, well, I don't think it's that. I think it's just permission to be what you are right now is okay.
Yeah. Exactly. You're good enough. Oh, love that last. That's a great message to end on.
Okay.
Wow. Well, so where can we find this gorgeous book, The Courage of a Mouse? Where's the best place to look?
Well, actually, the book is available wherever books are sold. If you can go to my website at donnasagercowan.com, I have all of the purchase links for the different retailers to buy the book. You can also check out any of my upcoming events. You can look at, we're adding to it now, the school visits page. So I do school visits and group visits. So there's a form that you can fill out and talk to me about doing that. But and it all has all my social media pages. So if you want to stay connected with me that way, those are there. And I just wanted to say that, that sometimes when we're going through the insurmountable, that, that we ask why. It's like, why me? Why now? And, the answer is often, it's because of what's coming next. It's often, that knowledge or that challenge is what you need to keep moving on, to persevere. But it's also in that trying that we talked about in the beginning. It's like that one step, that one bite at a time. It's, how do you eat an elephant? Just one bite at a time. If you look at the overall picture, it's too scary. But that's okay. Sometimes life is about making a plan, and it's about adjusting those plans and getting, forward. And I think that the best thing that we can do is do whatever is the next best step for today, whatever we can get through today, whatever we can do today, because that's how you finish a journey.
Yep, one step at a time. Yeah. And those little steps get you there.
They certainly do.
Take a little longer, but it's better than throwing in the towel. Love it. You have such a great message. Thank you so much, Donna. This was
thank you for having me today. I love it. And it's like, I do love the book. I hope everybody enjoys the adventures with Kat and Simon, and we're going to continue on. Like I said, we have coming up next with The Curiosity of a Cat. We're hoping to have that out this November of 2019, and hopefully book 3 with The Passion of a Pig is coming out in 2020.
Nice. I love the pig. That's going to be fun. Cool. Well, I'm excited to read this with my kids, and my older daughter will probably read on her own, but it's definitely such a great message, and looking forward to it.
All right. Well, great.
That. Yeah. Yay. I know. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Donna. I hope you have an awesome day, and everybody you can go to, I'll put it in the show notes, but it's Donna Sager Cowan, and it's Donna with 2 N's, SagerCowan.com, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And yeah, we will have more info on all of that in the show notes, but thanks for listening. And thank you for being here, Donna. Alrighty.
All right. Thanks. It's been an amazing time.
It's fun.